In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. You may be seated. Well, you may have noticed that our readings are a little longer today. We heard from the prophet Isaiah. We heard from the first epistle of John. We heard from the Gospel of John, John 15 to be specific. John 15, the 15th chapter, is part of what's typically referred to as Jesus' farewell discourse in this Gospel. He's preparing the way for his departure. The chapter actually opens a few verses before what we just heard with Jesus' analogy of the vine and the branches. He says, if you abide in me and I in you, then you will bear much fruit. The branch finds life and nourishment from the vine. It's only through a direct physical connection to the vine that the branch can grow and live and flourish. It's not enough for the branch to just know that there is a vine that exists somewhere. Simple, close proximity to the vine is not enough to keep it healthy. There has to be direct connection, Jesus said. Without any hindrance or barrier. That's the only way to ensure that the branch flourishes, that you have a healthy, flourishing spiritual life. What are the things that break down or strain that connection to the vine, to our source? Well, things like sin and distraction and anxiety. All these contribute to a strained connection between the vine and the branch. Life constantly flows into the branch from the vine. Just like blood constantly flowing through, to the extremities of our bodies, the life comes through and gives the branch life. Yesterday I was just telling this to Father Lloyd. I was taking a plate out of our kitchen cabinet and somehow dropped it onto the counter and it shattered into several pieces. Well, I have no idea how. I didn't feel anything, but somehow the flying shrapnel sliced into my hand. And without even really thinking about it, I looked down and saw the cut, and it's one of those moments where you said, okay, I need stitches. There's no question. This isn't good. And the cut was deep, and I knew it was going to be a problem. And, of course, 2 seconds later, the blood started kind of pooling and flowing. Really started to freak Eve out. She was standing there with me. And she started to panic. And luckily I was, right there over the kitchen sink, so it was at least localized. I sop up the blood count as best as I can, and I wrap it around with about 14 Hello Kitty Band-Aids. And Eve immediately grabs her iPad, and through the voice search on YouTube Kids, starts yelling into it, how do I get rid of owies? How do I get rid of owies? And the only search result she got was people trying to get rid of owls out of their barn. Which she got really confused. Why does it keep showing me owls? Anyway, so after creating, a tourniquet out of hand ties, or hair ties, I started to clean up the mess, and I pick up all the pieces of the plate, take it in the cart to the garbage, and then I clean up a few other pieces of paper, that always kind of magically appear when you use like 15 Band-Aids. And I kid you not, 30 seconds later, I take some other junk mail, put it in the garbage, and push down the pile, and I slice open my other hand. The piece of plate is, on the top of the pile, and, cut this other finger almost off. So what did this ordeal teach me? What did this situation kind of bring to mind? It's the constant flow of blood through our bodies that's so crucial to nourishing and sustaining our lives. It's a constant thing. The blood doesn't just kind of flow to your hands a couple of minutes out of the day and then stop. No, it's a constant pumping of new life and nourishment into all the parts of our body. Just like the veins and the arteries, our spiritual life is nourished by the connection we have to Christ. That's what he's saying here in John 15. The severed connection results in the loss of that nourishment. The deficient connection with the vine also results in a loss of joy and peace. It can easily dry up without the vine to give us nourishment. If you abide in me, he says, and I in you, you will bear much fruit, it's a guarantee. So we move into this morning's reading from John, and hopefully now you understand the context a little bit. Those were the verses leading up to this point in the passage. If we love him, he says in the verses we just read, we'll do what he commands. If we abide in the vine, we'll bear the fruit of love, he says. In fact, bear fruit to do the works of love, which is what he's talking about here. To do the works of love, to bear that fruit, is the tangible sign of our connection to him, of our discipleship. It's how we are identified as Christians. It's not through our good theology or our beautiful liturgy or our perfect posture in church. It's by our love. It's the identifying factor. Do you love those around you? Or are you judgmental or short-tempered? Are you hypercritical and impatient? Is this how people describe you? Are you so caught up in your own world that you fail to recognize the opportunities to enter into someone else's world for a brief moment, to lighten their load, to show them that you care? Bearing fruit is not the way that we become disciples. That can only happen through faith and the merciful acceptance of us as his children. But bearing fruit is just what a healthy branch does. It's a sign that we have a spiritual, thriving, healthy spiritual life. That extension of God through us to others. And the other thing that happens is bearing fruit will naturally draw others toward us, towards what is happening. And by extension, point them to the Father. The fruit is the draw. Our first house was all of 1,100 square feet in Hendersonville, and had a yard the size of one of our bathrooms here at St. Michael's. But one of the reasons why this house appealed to us so much when we bought it is because it had this, in the back, it had this beautiful rock wall with this grapevine growing on this lattice work, weaving, ornately. It had been there for a while. This arch and gate, this beautiful rock fireplace, a pergola with some wisteria, draping down. It's beautiful. It's like this Italian, paradise. Looked like a little terrace. The front of the house looked very much like a condo. It was a condo that was trying to convince you that it was a house. It was like it was saying, hey, see, there's 18 inches between me and the next guy. I'm a house, okay? Believe me. The front was a little rough, but the back looked like this perfect, terrace out of a movie. The first spring we were there, were these big clusters of grapes appearing on these grapevines. They began to form, and just after a few weeks, they turned soft and sweet. Of course, I just completely took credit for it. I was like, I'm a gardener. This is amazing. I know what I'm doing. I bought this house, and now there's grapes. This is awesome. One night I heard a strange sound coming out of one of our back windows, and it sounded like a rustling coming from the backyard. Well, of course, this is my first house. So, the first probably 3 months I was there, I lived in perpetual expectation that I was either going to be robbed or that the house was going to burn down. I'm sort of pessimist like that sometimes. So I was already kind of hearing, I was expecting, a thief to come. So I hear the sounds in the back. I flip on the porch light. That was surprising, right? I'm going to jump out, and he's going to be scared to death. And I'm going to be, victorious homeowner. Lo and behold, I open the door, and not 3 feet from my face is this possum just munching on my grapes. And he looked at me in complete confusion, thinking, what are you doing so close to my grapes? And after getting over that initial shock of an animal being close to my face, I yelled at him and tossed something, and he, scurried off. So I went inside feeling victorious, right? I protected my house. I passed Home Protection 101, the first test. Well, not 15 minutes later, I hear the same sound coming from the back porch. Now I'm trying to think of something, as I'm walking out the back door, trying to look for something bigger I can toss at him. And I open the back door and, look, same spot, 3 feet away, and a raccoon is eating my grapes, staring right at me. And of course, he's got this look of confusion on his face too, thinking, what are you doing so close to the possum's grapes? Once again, I get frustrated and, I throw something, he scurries off, and of course, I think that's the end of it. Well, another half hour goes by, and I hear a rattling sound. I'm thinking, what in the world? How many different animals are there in this town? So I, start yelling as soon as I open up the back door, and the possum has returned. The possum is now, once again, in his spot. I guess saying that the raccoon has been scared off, and he's now eating my grapes. And I just yell, what is going on? It's like the open door of Noah's Ark. It's like all of a sudden every animal in town. What was drawing these animals? It was the fruit, right? The fruit was ripening on the grapevines and drawing, through its fragrant smell, all these little critters from around the neighborhood to feast on the goodness of these grapes. It's like a magnet. The fruit was drawing those who were hungry to the vine where the fruit was growing. This is what the works of love do. When we accomplish these, when we perform acts of kindness, works of love to those around us, they have this natural kind of drawing effect, this magnetism. If we're keeping close to Christ, if we're abiding in Him, our works of love are the fruit of that relationship. And again, they have this dual purpose. If we are ministering to someone through acts of love and kindness, of course they are benefiting from that action. But it has this byproduct of drawing others in. Those who are hungry are drawn to the bread of life. Those who are thirsty find the living water. Christ says, abide in my love. And how do we do that? It says we keep His commandments first and foremost. And if we keep His commandments, we will bear the fruit of love by our works of love for each other. It's through our unfettered and fruit-producing connection to the vine, our source, that our joy will be made full. Amen.